Which Auburn wide receiver will be the best on the roster for the 2022 college football season?
Well, Zach, I actually just finished crushing some chicken farm, and I am freaking ready to rock and roll.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zac Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Coming up on today's show, a conversation with new Auburn wide receiver Koy Moore. But first things first, happy Ferg Friday to all those who celebrate. Justin Ferguson with the Auburn Observer joining us. Yeah, I started saying that last few weeks, and people now in the Locked On Auburn Discord are like, I celebrate Ferg Friday every single Friday. So I thought it'd be fitting, Jay Ferg, with Koy Moore coming up later in the show, just to talk about this wide receiver position. And as we get closer and closer to the season, I mean, it's been a talking point all summer, and I don't know if there's really been any more clarity or not, but a ton of dudes that I think I can really talk myself into saying, okay, they're primed to have a big year compared to what they've done previously in their careers at Auburn. Like, I could talk myself into Shedrick Jackson taking a step forward. Mm-hmm. I could talk myself into Malcolm Johnson Jr. emerging onto the scene. I really can actually kind of talk myself into Jay Fair as well. Then of course, Koy Moore, the transfer. Where are you sitting as far as when you look at the individuals, not the room itself, but just some of the individual pieces on this roster?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked this, because today in our mailbag, I had a question about Ze'Vian Capers specifically. And it was interesting. Capers is a guy that, like Landon King, they bring something in that they're tall, and there's not a whole lot of tall dudes on this roster. Capers last season did not have as much production, did not have as many snaps as we thought he would. But if you look at it, he was still sixth in snaps at wide receiver last year. Just didn't get a ton of targets. He missed spring practices last year. I think you got to keep that in mind.
Sure.
And then also, we heard from TJ Finley after the spring game, and he's like, yeah, man, he's done a complete 180 in terms of like doing what he needs to do, going to workouts, going to film room, like, taking it a lot more seriously. And I think that's something that can kind of push him forward. So like Ze'Vian Capers is my guy in fall camp that I'm keeping an eye on and say, okay, can he make that step up? Because like I said, he was sixth on the team and at wide receiver snaps, but no more Demetrius Robertson, no more Kobe Hudson. There's going to be an opportunity for him. Actually, I'm sorry, he's fifth. So he's behind Jackson and then the two Johnsons, Tavares and Malcolm Johnson Jr. So there's an opportunity for him to kind of step up. And of the transfers that you guys got in Koy Moore and Daz Worsham, neither of those guys are necessarily dudes that you would say, okay, they'll definitely jump over somebody who's already been there, right? It's going to be a competition. It's going to be a battle. So I think the opportunity is there for a guy like Capers. He's a guy I'm really, really interested in. I think Tavares Johnson last season was Auburn's best deep ball guy, even though he's one of the smallest dudes on the team. Very efficient in that aspect. You look at the history of Eric Kiesau, good slot receivers in the past. They've used those a lot. I think he could be a guy who steps up there. And then if I'm putting one guy on there that I'm just like breakout kind of potential to me, is got to be Tavares Dawson Jr. This is a dude that we've heard about so much since he arrived last fall in terms of how well he practices. And for him, it's just going to be about becoming an all-around receiver, right? And not just an awesome athlete, which is what he was in high school, making the transition. Can he be an all-around receiver? He's really explosive. I think he's smooth. He's got pretty good hands. He's the guy to me that I think, he could help take this room to the next level, because you're going to need some of these guys we haven't seen before to make that step up. And I like Dawson a lot.
So I think it's interesting if you just look at the spring game, if you just look at A-Day and you have no context about anything else.
Right.
Tavares Dawson, to me, looks like he's the number one receiver in this offense. If you just watch A-Day and you have nothing else going on, but they went to him early. They went to him often. They seemed comfortable throwing to him. TJ did. So I think that's an interesting observation there. And then going back to the first guy you mentioned, he was a starter. He was a starter under Gus Malzahn. And it's
towards the end, for sure.
Yeah, it's just crazy to see two things. It's crazy to see his production drop, but also like props to him props to Capers for not transferring in this world where, like, if you get some playing time taken away from you, you leave. That's the culture of college sports right now. And he chose to stay. And I think this coaching staff will reward him for that.
I 100% agree with that. And yeah, I mean, you lose Elijah Canyon, who is that kind of bigger guy, big play kind of threat. You obviously lose Kobe Hudson and D-Rob and Kalen Newton. Like, there's opportunities there. And I think last season, with him missing time in the spring, kind of put him behind the 8 ball a little bit. This is going to be the opportunity for him to catch up. And then just, I guess mentioned another guy, like, we haven't talked a ton here about Malcolm Johnson Jr., but dude was on the field a ton last season. Yeah. And I think the key for him, I talked about it on our podcast on Thursday that it with Painter, is like, I don't want to say this and it sound very negative to this player, because this player I'm about to refer to was really, really good. Okay. But I think you want to make sure that if you get a guy like Malcolm Johnson Jr., he doesn't become Anthony Schwartz 2.0, which you only do a couple things with him. And I don't think this offense is kind of built for that. It's a completely different type of skill set. But like, Johnson's got pure just burner speed. But I think under a guy like Ike Hilliard and in this offense, he can become more. Remember, he was a really good recruit coming out of high school. He was a 4-star. He enrolled early. He reclassified. So he's younger than his class should designate, and he's already made an impact at Auburn. So he's one of those guys that look like step up there. It's kind of like the quarterback room to me, which is funny because you pair them off together because that's what is going to kind of make or break this team this season.
Sure.
But like, your quarterbacks and your wide receivers, there are options. Those options have experience. None of them have been household names. None of them have been guys that you feel like have set the world on fire. But if they can click, it can change everything. And there's no doubt there's talent in there. There's no doubt that Zach Calzada has had his moments, and TJ Finley has had his moments, and Robbie Ashford was a great recruit coming out of high school. Feel the same way about a lot of these guys at wide receiver. It's going to be a matter of who steps up and shows out, and they're going to have to do it quickly because this is what's going to make or break this football team this year.
You mentioned Keesow having a lot of success with slot guys.
Yeah.
I kind of want to see Malcolm Johnson Jr. in that role because, I mean, he's got experience coaching guys like Deshaun Jackson, another guy with burner speed, big playability, and there's some similarities there. I mean, Malcolm Johnson Jr. has to do a ton to be able to catch up with, a name like Deshaun Jackson, but you got to think that there'll be some similarities from a scheme standpoint and a game plan standpoint between those two guys.
Yeah, you saw what they did last season with that flanker role with Demetrius Robertson. I think you got to have somebody else to do that. One of the things that hurt Tavares Johnson last year is that Kobe Hudson became the guy in the slot. Well, he's not there anymore. Kobe's moved on. So your primary slot guy looks now to be a guy like Tavares Johnson. And Malcolm Johnson Jr. a little bit bigger. You can move him around a little bit. And, and those bigger body guys, Camden Brown also makes sense there as he comes in. There's just a good mix of just, I think Auburn would like a little more. They would love to have like a Seth Williams or a Duke Williams type on this team. Sure. And like, maybe Ze'Vian Capers or a Landon King can step up and be one of those kind of possession guys for you in time. But there's a lot of versatility. There's a lot of just kind of being able to move some dudes around. And this is what this offense is all about. I mean, you watch Tank Bigsby line up in the slot a lot last season. You watch running backs move around. You watch tight ends play literally everywhere on the field. I think the wide receivers are going to fall right in line with that.
Yeah. Justin, thank you for joining us just for a few minutes, an abbreviated Ferg Friday before we jump into our conversation with Koy Moore. I'm going to ask this question. I'm going to answer the first part of it because I thought it was exceptional. What all do you have going on at the Auburn Observer? And the highlight of the week, in my opinion, your piece on Donovan Kaufman was excellent.
Well, thanks.
That is why folks sign up for the Auburn Observer, to get that kind of perspective.
Yeah, check out the Donovan Kaufman story at the Observer. I think he is quietly like one of those guys that is going to be like a very, very valuable piece of this defense next year that's just not getting talked about. And I lay out all the reasons why in the story. Also did a fun one this week. The teams that Auburn has never played in football and in basketball and who they should get. You can check that out. Painter and I did a podcast on Thursday. It's our 3rd annual draft where we go head to head and pick a starting lineup on offense and defense.
Okay.
Check that out. Mailbag out on Friday. Next week, we'll get ready for SEC Media Days, and we'll jump right in with fall camp. So good time to sign up, auburnobserver.com.
Yeah, nothing screams mid-July like those topics, right?
That's the thing. It's like I next week is Media Days. So I used the last bullets in my off-season gun this week. And so we're ready to roll next week.
Oh, yeah, it's finally here. It's finally here. Hey, we will hear from Koy Moore in just a moment. He talks about why he chose Auburn, what the sales pitch was for him, and how he'll be using this offense. All that next. But first, I want to tell you about our friends at BetOnline. BetOnline remains your number one source for all of your betting needs and sports info. Look, if you believe in these Auburn Tigers, you need to head over to BetOnline right now and just put it all on the line. They've got some odds that will be heavily in your favor if they are able to pull it off, and we'll see if they're able to do that. But check it all out, betonline.net, where the game starts. And joining us now here on Locked On Auburn, Auburn wide receiver Koy Moore. Koy, how's Auburn been treating you so far this offseason?
I love it. I love it here. I mean, it's a brotherhood, and they took me in quick. You know how sometimes when you don't catch a bond with your teammates, it takes a little minute when you first get in there. But since day one, it's been a brotherhood, and felt like I felt welcome on the team, from the coaches, from the players, from the training room staff, and all that. So that's the good thing.
I imagine the timing of when you came in is a little tough, right? Because everybody just kind of got done with spring, and they probably, feel a little bit closer and things like that. Is the timing of when you came in kind of set you back at all, or are you putting in the work now to make up for it? What's that dynamic like, Koy?
How that spring was, I was putting in work regardless. You know what I mean? I work hard. I was getting at least 2 workouts a day. So basically what they was doing, I was probably doing more. You know what I mean? So I was prepared. And, my brother through that spring, he just said, make the right decision. So that's why I fell to the summer to make sure, because spring things can change from the offense standpoint, quarterbacks, all that, from you never know who transferred and things like that. So basically I just took my time on the decision.
Gotcha. Yeah. And I think the fit is totally there. We've talked about your fit in this offense a ton on the show. I think you're going to absolutely explode on the scene this season. What was the sales pitch when Auburn reached out to you? You're sitting there in the transfer portal, this mythical place that we all talk about, the transfer portal. Was it Bryan Harsin that called you? Was it Coach Hilliard that reached out? What was your first point of contact with Auburn?
My first point of contact with Auburn, it was Coach Trayvon Reed and Coach Hilliard just called on FaceTime, and then ever since then, they was with me through the whole process. And Coach Hilliard is probably the realest it come, and Coach Harsin is real as it come as well. He's a great dude, great head coach, and like Coach Hilliard, he comes from the NFL, so that's big. And the things he told me, and that's coming from the head NFL coach, I felt like it was no choice to come in. Like, I know for sure he can develop me and be as good how he was good. Like I can be the same way.
Yeah, I mean, when Auburn hired him, I think everybody was like, holy cow, what a great hire. I mean, this guy has done it. He's played at the highest level. He's coached at the highest level. Why wouldn't you want this guy on your coaching staff? And I can't wait to see what he does with you guys, and, what he could do with Shedrick Jackson in his last year, Malcolm Johnson Jr. I mean, a ton of these guys that have a ton of upside. And it seems like Coach Hilliard will be able to unlock that. How much are you able to interact with him right now? I know it's kind of a weird period where players and coaches can only do so much together, but how much interaction is there?
I actually make sure I call him, talk to him at least like 3 times a week.
Okay.
We just checking on each other and things like that. Talk about a little ball, talk about, outside of ball. So, just having that relationship with him. Like, it's the same way how it was in the portal. How sometimes some coaches, when they just get you there, things kind of change. But now it's been the same since I've been in the portal. Like our conversations and things like that.
Sure. So how do you expect to fit into this offense, Koy? I mean, do you think you'll be moved around the field a ton? Do you think you'll be at the slot more? Are you going to be more of an outside guy? How do you anticipate them using you in this offense this year?
I mean, how it's been looking, it's looked like I've been like I've been in the boundary and the slot, like
Okay.
so around to both. So that's the good thing, versatility.
Right. Right. And that's kind of been a thing that Bryan Harsin's been preaching since he's been here. Get guys that can do multiple things. Who are some guys that you're working out with on this team right now that you're kind of building bonds with, that you're training together, holding each other accountable? What are some of those relationships that are forming?
Actually, I work out with all three quarterbacks. We all get together with the receivers, and sometimes me and TJ and got our own private little one-on-one, and Zach a little one-on-one, so they can help me with the playbook and keep me up fast. I mean, I kind of know it already, and I only been here for a month, so we just been working behind the scenes, watching film together. So they just trying to get me prepared. So by the time fall camp come, it's no fallbacks. It's straight moving forward. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it sounds like your approach to the mental side of football, just the stuff between the ears, the playbook and understanding scheme and all that, seems like you're super interested in that side of the game.
Yeah, I think it's just like a new challenge too, because I knew LSU playbook already. So it's like from step one, it's just starting over and learning again. And I kind of love it. I get to learn again, and I get to challenge myself.
How different is it looking at LSU's playbook, knowing that backwards and forwards, then moving to another SEC school? I assume they're similar concepts. Maybe they have different names for things, but how difficult was that?
I think the difficult part at LSU was get the signals down, because it was more like a no huddle. But here it's more like I can learn the plays fast. I just gotta know the formation, because it's NFL based type of offense. So they got the single back. You got situations when the tight end on the ball, I'm off the ball. It depends what's my split. So all them formations, there's a lot of formations. So it's really I just need to get the formations down here, and that's probably the two difference to the school.
And so working with Zach and TJ, it's allowed you to kind of get a better grasp on that, I would assume.
Yeah, I mean, all we do is I tell them challenge me. I'll be like, call a play out, call it for me out, and I run a route like that instead of I'm like, don't tell me until I mess up. Like that's how I want to get better. I gotta mess up first.
Yeah.
I don't want nobody telling me the whole time.
Well, we always talk about, whether it's analysts or media or fans, we always talk about the importance between a quarterback and a wide receiver. Obviously, the timing aspect of it all, but what all goes into that, Koy? Like, what are you trying to work on right now as far as building that connection? And we don't know who's going to win the job, who's going to win the quarterback battle. So it sounds like you're working out with all of them, which makes sense. But what is that when you're trying to form a relationship, whether it's with Zach or whether it's with TJ or whether it's with Robbie? What does that look like? What are you trying to get out of it?
I mean, first of all, of course we gotta be buddies on the field, but I feel like chemistry and the connection builds off the field by hanging out with each other. Not in football things. Like we can just be playing the game together. I feel like that's where it starts from. You know what I mean? Like building that relationship off the field, because on the field that's automatic.
Yeah.
And it's gonna make the connection even better. Cause there's gonna be times in the game when I be like, Zach, Robbie, TJ, hey, trust me right here. I want the ball on the post route. You know what I mean? And that's when that trust comes from off the field, when it just go get to that time when Zach will be like, look, get ready for this back shoulder fade. Things like that. So I feel like that's the biggest thing.
Sure. What games are y'all playing together off the field?
Oh, we Madden. We be having little tournaments and stuff.
What team do you use when you play Madden?
Sometimes we do 3 randoms. Zach get mad when I win. Robbie get mad if I win, and want to get the best team. So I just get the Cardinals or something like that. I just love Kyler Murray. So
just running around with Kyler back there.
Yeah, that's what I love right there.
Yeah, no, Kyler and Lamar, they're the most fun to use in Madden for sure, because they can run around. But that's awesome. How competitive are you? I mean, are you competitive in every aspect of everything that you do? You kind of give off that vibe to me.
Yeah. I hate losing at everything, and that's how it is. Like in routes, like I hold myself accountable and I hold the quarterbacks accountable. Like say like they threw underthrown or something like that. Nah, we gotta repeat that. We need it perfect. Like we need it perfect. Like we go keep running routes until everything's perfect. Like that's how I am. Like
We continue our conversation with Koy Moore in just a moment, right here on Locked On Auburn. Do you think people, obviously millions of people watch football every week. I mean, do you think they realize, the average fan realizes how detailed and how much work goes into each and every route?
no, I don't really think so. I don't really think nobody know because
Yeah.
uh we probably work that post route 1,000 times and you probably only catch it 5 times in the season. So people don't understand how much work and detail that some of us do just to get that one moment.
Yeah. Now, Coy, you've mentioned the post route a few times in this interview. Do you think Auburn fans can expect some post routes from you this year, something down the field? Because a lot of your stuff at LSU, right, was a little bit more short to intermediate, like move the chain type plays. Do you think they'll set you off on a few posts this season?
Yeah, for sure. The thing is like I'm a hidden gem. Like if you was at LSU, you was gonna see what I was capable of.
Mm-hmm.
I ain't get to be able to showcase it on the field because certain reasons, but uh, I'm people just gonna be real like surprised. Like, I mean, if you just look at my little cut up, that's just a little something, you know what I mean? But like, I'm ready. Like, I'm a Mr. Do It All, in my opinion. Like, I can do everything.
Yeah.
Like you said, some people think I just can run that short route. That's all they had me doing. But I love going deep. Like, I love it.
Yeah, that's how you win football games, right? Is
Yeah.
a few of those explosive plays. That's the difference. Yeah. So Pro Football Focus, they really rate you high in regards to catch percentage and like catching traffic, and they really respect when the ball is going your way. There's a very high chance that you're going to haul it in. Is that something that you work on? How much of that is natural? How much of that is the ball placement of the quarterback? What all goes into that?
To be honest, I think it's just been like that since I was 12 and from my brother. And I just I kind of just grew up fast making contested catches because when I was 12, I was basically playing with my brother friends when they was 18, 19. So it wasn't a lot getting open sometimes when I'm 12 years old. So I just grew up by like getting contested catches and going over people's heads on go balls and stuff. That's how I learned.
Yeah.
And ever since then, like the confidence just been through the roof. And I tell myself, I'm a route runner, but I tell the quarterbacks and stuff, I'm open 24/7 because as long as you put it in the area and they touch my hands, I'm not dropping it. And it's rare when I drop it. Like that's rare.
Do you have that drop in your career that like you still think about from time to time?
Yeah, man. It was the last game of my freshman year. I just made a hell of a catch on the over route, and Max threw it behind me on the over route, and my body turned that way, and I like snagged it from the back, caught it. Then the next play, he came right back at me, slant route, easiest catch that I can make.
Oh
Just
man,
dropped it.
who was that
I'm like,
against?
bro. Ole Miss. Ole Miss.
Ole Miss.
I got
Gotcha.
a big off of over route, threw behind me, made a nice little catch from behind, and then I dropped the easiest one that I can, just think, I usually catch a lot of hard catches, so sometimes catches like that just be like, all right, just easy. Let me get up the field.
Right. Coy, there's a lot of excitement about this Auburn defense. I don't know how much you're doing one-on-one stuff against opposing DBs or anything like that. I don't know how much of that you're allowed to do at this point of the year, but just working out with some of those guys on defense. What are you expecting out of them?
I think our defense is gonna be top 3 best in the nation for sure. By having Owen back, that's big. We just fast, man. All around, our DBs can play. We got 4 cornerbacks for sure that I know that can play. And I think all 4 of those guys will play. The front 7 just crazy. Like
Right.
that deep crazy. And we're gonna be really good on defense. Really good.
Yeah.
Can't.
Koy, I love corners, and Auburn has 4 of them, like you said. I love corners that aren't afraid to just pop receivers at the line of scrimmage. Because a lot of guys, I think you're more physical than most wide receivers are, but it seems like a lot of receivers don't like that. They don't like to be pushed at the line.
Oh yeah. It be times it's feet work, and it be times when I'm bringing the contact towards them, and that's just like how I am. I want to be all around. I don't want to just be that dude that people just say, oh, he just dance and stuff like that. Nah, I'm gonna bring the contact to you sometimes, just because film purposes too. So, it's not easy to cover a dude that's aggressive and got sweet feet at the same time. That's not easy to cover. So, that's why I try to be a mean guy and a finesse guy at the same time.
Who's been the toughest defensive back you've gone up against in college? Do you have a guy in mind?
My opinion, it probably got to be like the old LSU practices, like with Eli Ricks, Derek Sting, something like that. But beside Cordell Flott was me and him battle a lot as well. I mean, those three guys probably the only got like the top 3 guys that we battle. But that's that practice too, so we knew what he knew what my weakness was. I knew what his weaknesses was. Battles the whole time.
Right. Koy, thank you so much for your time, man. I know you're extremely busy, so thank you so much, and I'd love to do this again soon, brother.
All right, me too. Appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Koy Moore. Thank you so much, Justin Ferguson, for joining us once again. AuburnObserver.com. It's worth every single penny, folks. When we hit you on Monday, we will be in Atlanta for SEC Media Days. You don't want to miss that. Follow us on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter at Zac Blackerby. You can read all of our written work at auburndaily.com. We'll see you on Monday right here on Locked On Auburn.